Welcome back to the Winded Podcast. My name is Seamus Sullivan, and today I'm joined by actress Hannah Kelly. Hannah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and thanks for having me.
Hannah, you are a actress, have your SAG card. What are some things that you've been in or some things that you have coming up?
Yeah, so actually, in the past couple months, I've shot two short films. One I actually just wrapped up 2 days ago. So that's an apocalyptic short, which is something that I wanted to cross off my acting bucket list. So I got to do that. I also have another comedy series that I filmed about 2 months ago. And that's another short one that should be coming out hopefully soon as well. So that one's exciting. And then before that, I've just been in a lot of local independent short things, mostly comedy, mostly drama, romance, that kind of vibe. And the most recent traveling job that I had, I got to travel for 3 weeks. We actually went to Chicago, Denver, and New Orleans, and that was for an Apple TV movie that I can't share too much about, but that one was really fun.
I will remember that. That's very exciting. Apple TV, it's like everything they put out is great. So I'm looking
Oh,
forward
for
to
sure.
seeing what you have cooking. How did you I actually saw on your Instagram something that you posted from when you were a kid. Seems
Yeah.
like being an actor, actress has been something that you've wanted to do forever. Do you remember, like, kind of when it clicked for you that you didn't just enjoy watching movies and TV shows, that you wanted to be in them?
Yeah, so I, very vividly remember something, and it's so specific, but, when I was younger, I was reading the Twilight series. I'm a huge book reader, and I was reading it probably much younger than I should have been reading it. But there's this one character, Renesmee, and she kinda comes at the end. It's like, the main character's daughter, and I remember they were making these into movies, and for some reason in my head, I'm like, "Oh, that would be cool to play her in this movie." I had no idea how to do that. No one in my family was in film or TV, but I just vividly remember wanting to kind of pursue that path. And yeah, I did drama a tiny bit when I was younger, and I did something called Destination Imagination, DI for short, but that was kind of just like entering into that world. So I always just found it fascinating, and I knew from probably like 5 years old that that's what I wanted to do. But then I took a completely different path, kind of detoured, and then got back to.
Yeah, you mentioned that detour, and I'm assuming you're talking about studying psychology in college? So
Yes.
I was very curious, because I know that you kind of lean into the psychology education that you have and you apply it to your work. And I wanted to ask if that was something that just happened to work out for you, or if that was kind of strategic, that you went to school knowing that you wanted to be an actor and thought that psychology, but how did kind of what came first there?
So it wasn't strategic in any part. Like when I went to college, so I grew up and I played sports, I focused on school, I played soccer, ran track, and then I went to college. And I think college was kind of just that's what everybody was doing, that's what everyone in my family did. So I had to pick a major, and I thought psychology was super interesting. I've always been really interested in people's minds and how things work and what makes people click. And I think in the back of my mind, I always had the acting thing there. So they really do go hand in hand. I also studied criminology as well. I was just super interested in those kind of things. And yeah, they just kind of, it works out now. I mean, I feel like you can use psychology in anything. But yeah, it definitely wasn't like strategic in any way. It was just kind of, okay, I need a major in college and this is what's interesting to me. So
I mean, it's great that even though it's not exactly a typical psychology field, it's you're still using your education and degree. I mean, there's so many people that they go through and have a degree and go do something else. So at least in one way, you're still using that degree for what you do
exactly.
now. What is a typical kind of day in your life when you are not, say, like on a shoot or you're not traveling for work? What is kind of Oh, you're located in Boston, correct? Okay, so you're in Massachusetts and you don't have an active job. What's the process of getting ready for something? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, so if I have a project coming up, what I like to do is I'll just read the script, kind of analyze it, analyze my character, and get into that. Kind of just the typical pre-production stuff. So if I have something that I'm working on, I like to spend a lot of time doing that. Other than that, I go to the gym almost every day because I feel like a huge part of acting is also just being physically healthy, mentally and physically. Because once you're on set, like you can't catch the flu when you're on set because you don't want to waste people's time and dollars. So always physically and mentally making sure that like I'm set and ready to go. And then other than that, just a lot of kind of boring like computer work, I guess. Always trying to update myself. Sometimes I'll apply for classes, take some acting classes, networking, just scrolling on those websites, casting websites, trying to see what's next, filming auditions, all that kind of, I guess, boring stuff in the back that people don't really see until they see you on screen.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it briefly before that, you know, everybody's kind of perception of what an actor does is kind of really what they're shown on TV. And obviously, there's so much more that goes into it. Um, so yeah, what would you say is kind of the biggest like misconception that people may have of people that are actors and actresses?
I think I see a lot, when actors or actresses are on a big show. I feel like the best example is like heated rivalry right now.
Yep.
Rivalry? I can't say that word. But everyone, I keep seeing, oh, they're an overnight success. But the reality of that is it's usually not an overnight success, right? I think they've even talked in interviews, saying, they've been doing this for like 6, 7 years beforehand. And I think that's a huge misconception that most of these actors that you see when they're finally coming up on these big TV shows or they got their big break, that they just started, they got lucky. But a lot of the time, there's a lot of hard work and effort that goes into that overnight success. There's usually years of, trying to pursue this craft, making short independent films with friends, all that kind of stuff.
No, that's a great point, and you really, don't think about anything beyond, like, when it shows up on your Netflix. You're like, "Oh, this just came out," and you kind of think, this they just put this together, and it's just, all the hard work and time and energy and trial and error that went into it, it's not even a thought for most people. One thing that I do when I watch a show is I kind of think about, and I'm not an actor by any means, don't have any interest, desire at all, but, like, I always like to, when I see something that is, like, funny or just there's certain scenes that stick out to me, and I think what the energy must have been like for everyone around that's involved, and, that's, like, my only way that I get pulled into movies in, like, a different way other than just enjoying them is I like to think, like, this must have been hysterical or this must have been so emotional, for people that are around because it's not a play that like a movie runs all the way through and that's, one take kind of thing. You think of a take is done and then like you kind of everybody converges and you talk and whatever. So, um, what is that like when there are these big moments or these big kind of, whether it's funny, emotional, sad, kind of what are those like to be a part of?
Yeah, and kind of to answer that, to take it back as well. So when I was saying like keeping yourself physically and mentally healthy, that's a huge part of that as well. Because a lot of the scenes, especially the long ones or the emotional ones, it takes a lot of energy that I guess you wouldn't really know unless you're doing these kind of scenes. But it can take a lot of energy to get there physically and mentally, because you're kind of putting yourself in this character's shoes. So it can certainly take a lot to get there. But then also you're doing it over and over and over again, sometimes. So sometimes you can get it on the first or second take, great, but other times you're doing like upwards of 10 takes, whether it's there's something they want to, fix with the acting or there's a sound issue, a camera issue, all of that. And sometimes you're in climates that aren't the best. You can, especially right now in the winter, there's if you're shooting something outside, you're gonna be pretty cold. So you're battling that as well. But on the other side, it can be super fun. Like some of the behind the scenes, you see bloopers sometimes. It can be really fun and just I find for me personally, I bond with people like on set pretty quickly, so it's just like a fun little family sometimes. And it's a lot of work for actors and the crew as well. I always say that I feel like the crew is doing so much more work than the actor because they're setting everything up and they have to hold the cameras and they have all the big gear. But yeah, it can be really fun, but it can also be pretty taxing. That's why you have to make sure that you're, mentally and physically set.
Yeah, I believe it for sure. You being from Massachusetts, and I took a look in through some of your previous work, and there was one thing that really stuck out to me that it connected with me, and I'm going to say I'm a little jealous is that you were in a 99 restaurant commercial.
Yes, I was. That was actually I think that was the first thing I ever did, was the 99 restaurant commercial, but yeah, that was fun.
So obviously 99 is huge in this area. Huge when where I grew up, it was the place where everybody went. I ended up working there for a long time. So 99 is I met my wife at the 99. So
Oh, no way.
it's very hold, close to my heart. So when I saw that, it was something that I didn't even realize that they did commercials until like recently. Like
Mhm,
I saw one online. And I actually think the one I saw is the one that you were in. This was, a couple years ago at this point,
mhm.
um, but yeah, is funny. That was not shot in a 99 though, right?
It
Or was
was.
it? It
It
was? Okay.
was, yeah,
Because
and
they make
it's
it I feel like they alter it for probably licensing purposes, but it just looks different in the commercial, but what was that like?
so it's actually funny that you say you worked there because I worked there during college. I did, the to-go orders, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I worked there as well. So when that was, like, my first paying job, like, this is so funny and ironic. But that was my first overnight shoot as well. So I believe the call time, which is the time we had to get there, was 9 PM. And then we wrapped or finished shooting around, I want to say like 6 in the morning.
Sheesh.
So yeah, so that was was a little rough, but it was fun. We basically just, they gather you up, they place you, and then they had some characters, fake eating. They actually did make us real food as well to eat, which was nice of them. And then I think they did another scene of us sitting at the bar. They did make real drinks, but we could not drink them for liability
That's probably
purposes.
smart.
Yeah. But that was really fun. Like I said, that was, I think, almost, yeah, 2 years ago. I think it was like November 2023 or something around that time. But it was a cool experience, yeah, especially for my first one ever.
So what going forward, what kind of what's like your dream type of role? Do you pride yourself on, drama, kind of lighthearted stuff? What would you ideally love to do?
Yeah, so I have 2 things that I really wanna do that I have not done yet. One is I love reading and like romantasy, which is romance fantasy kind of genre. That is something I would absolutely love to do. And I feel like there's not a lot of it, especially because you kind of need a big budget to accomplish bringing that kind of stuff to life. But that would be one definitely dream role for me. And then also, I would love to be a rom-com. I feel like I do a lot of comedy, I do a lot of romance, but putting them together, that would be so much fun. And that as well, I feel like there's not enough rom-coms right now, so we should bring that back.
The rom-com had such a run for so long, and I feel like it's just not they still make them and they still put them out, but they just don't hit the same way that they did like 10 years ago. They just whether it's, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or just those type of movies just don't exist. I feel like, or at least I'm not seeing them. But I would love to see that genre kind of make a comeback soon.
I agree. I miss them. We need some good rom-com.
They're just perfect, like do nothing Saturday on the couch kind of movies that you can be semi invested in, not, totally, and you miss something and it's okay. But
Yeah,
um
and they
I
make
have
you
a
happy.
terrible what's that?
I said they make you happy.
And they do. They make you feel good by the end, and, um, I have a terrible attention span for movies. I've like have a tough time getting through, almost anything. Um, but something like that is like perfect for me. I just love, it's you can kind of come in, zone in and out, and it, doesn't change anything. But yeah, I would love to see rom-coms make a comeback.
Bring them back for 2020.
Yes. Yes. What is your like what's the best movie that you've seen recently?
For 2025, my favorite movie was Sinners. I don't know if you saw that one.
I haven't yet, no.
Good. I love it. I highly recommend it. I recommend it to everybody if you haven't watched it, but very
I will
good.
definitely check that out. I think the last movie that I saw that I enjoyed, I saw Jay Kelly on Netflix, the George Clooney, um,
Yes.
and I
That one was
thought that
good.
was interesting because it does kind of show, um, you know, the the darkness that can be behind, especially when you reach, like, that status. I did think it was funny on the Golden Globes the other day when they, like, made the reference that that was just George Clooney's life, um, that he just played himself in that movie, but
Yeah.
all right, Hannah. Well, this has been so great. Why don't you kind of share you actually, before I say, your TikToks are great. And if
Thanks.
you find this kind of your kind of behind the scenes interesting like I do, your TikToks kind of do a good job of kind of going into some of the different things that you do. So highly recommend your TikTok. But why don't you just say where people can find you? I know you can't say all your upcoming stuff that you have going on, but just kind of tease what people can look forward to from you in the future.
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on TikTok or Instagram. I believe both are HL or Hannah. Yes. Hannah L. Kelly 777. So you can find me on socials there. And then coming up, like I said, I have that apocalyptic short. That one should be really good. I think that's not gonna be available until around the summertime. But then I also have a comedy series coming out hopefully in the next month or so, so you guys can stay tuned for that. And then another series that I did, Something Small, and is also coming out in April that I can't.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Hannah, so much for joining me today. I look forward to watching your career and following you as you continue in your journey. So, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Hannah, for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.